Dennis Napthine, has he done the right thing in specifically targeting Julian Knight with that legislation? And whilst he's at it, should there be a few other names that go on the list?
It's actually a bigger issue than that, and I bring to you the law of unintended consequences. Adrian Ernest Bayley, you will remember, is the man sentenced to 35 years for the murder of Jill Maher. Well, he's just been placed into protection at the Melbourne Assessment Prison. He's always been a high-risk prisoner, but the standard has been upgraded because he is probably one of the least popular people in the system. Why is that? Well, first off, because of the crime, obviously, but for another reason. You remember there was public outrage regarding parole because Bayley was on parole and should have had his parole breached over an assault in Geelong. So he should have been in jail and never out when Jill was murdered. As a reaction to that, the government had a report done by a former High Court judge which put forward 23 recommendations which really raised the bar of parole, and the Napthine government has legislated to change it. Now, that means that there are a number of prisoners, virtually every one of the heavy prisoners, who believes they will do much more jail time. These inmates are now blaming Bayley particularly, and others of that ilk who were in that big publicity campaign, and they are at risk because prisoners will do hundreds more years of jail. A lot of the heavies had set their sights on a particular date, which would have been the first day, and once they'd completed their minimum sentence. The Callahan report has said, no, that's not necessarily the way to go. It is about public protection, and it is almost up to the offender to put forward an overwhelming case that they will not be in any way a risk to public safety. That means a lot of people will be doing a lot more jail time. Now, Bailey's been in prison for 2 years and he's yet to even get to the mainstream.
Well, would Julian Knight, I mean, the Adult Parole Board was ultimately going to be the organisation that determined whether Knight was released back into the community. Not anymore, I assume. What were the prospects of him getting parole in May of this year?
Virtually none. It's interesting that Knight has spent many, many years keeping his nose clean in order to be able to go to the parole board and say, don't judge me on what I did, but what I am now. So he's been pretty good at that until recently. And one wonders whether or not his recent erratic behaviour is not due to the Bayley issue, knowing that he wouldn't be going to the parole board next May. Indeed, he was involved in an assault where a prisoner was struck to the jaw. Now, I'm not saying he actually hit him, but he was involved. And he's done other things which indicate a change of behaviour.